parents refinanced their trailer, their double wide, to adopt 2 kids that they couldn't afford. I think they thought they were making a good financial investment. They're like, oh, we hear about these Asian kids. We get a couple of them, we'll get a doctor, a lawyer out of them, you know what I mean? I do stand-up comedy, and my brother is 30 and lives at home, so I think it was the Tyson chicken. I think that really colonized us, so you know.
You're listening to the podcast, Clean Comedy Chats, with your host, Drew Davis. It's gonna be awesome and will change your life forever. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Welcome back to Clean Comedy Chats. I'm your host, Drew Davis, and we've made it to episode 5. I'm eventually going to stop counting the episodes, but it's still new enough where I feel it. Thank you guys for listening. If you're new here, this is the podcast where we interview different comedians each week from the Clean Comedy Collective, which you can find us all at cleancomedycollective.com. We have a nationwide group of virtual network of amazing comedians that work clean and work all across the country. And this podcast is really an excuse for me to make new friends and to meet new people. And then maybe in the process, maybe you'll discover your new favorite comedian. So today I'm very excited because I'm bringing another Nashville comedian. I'm bringing a friend. I've been someone who I already know. We've known each other for Cortney. Honestly, it's been like a decade, hasn't it? I mean, like I wouldn't say like we've seen each other every day for a decade. But when you think about when we started meeting each other to now, it's been a while. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me today Cortney Warner, a Nashville comedian and absolutely just an amazing person. Cortney, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. I'm stoked. I've been doing comedy for about 9 years now. So yeah, it's been close to a decade of us knowing each other. Which is crazy.
That's a really fun thing about comedy friends is you do comedy long enough, then you turn around and like, oh my gosh, I've known these people for so long. Or
I know.
And doing shows together and working on creative stuff together, that's such like a personal part of our lives. And then also like, us comedians, we're a crazy bunch. So when you meet other people that have the similar interests and creativity of comedy, you're like, oh wow, we're like bonded forever. So that's kind of a fun thing. Cortney Warner is a stand-up comedian based out of Nashville, Tennessee. She's the host of the Core Memory podcast and produces a comedy show at the Blue Room in Nashville. She teaches comedy writing classes. She recently was on a panel about stand-up comedy in Nashville, and she has 2 comedy specials out online, one of which literally just dropped yesterday, which is why we're so excited to have her on the podcast today. And we're going to get into all of that in our interview. But Cortney, before we do this, I don't know if you know this, you might know from what I shared with you, but in case you haven't listened to an episode yet, side note, I'm all over the place. First of all, that's okay. Secondly, I think one of the most exciting things about having you on the podcast, Cortney, is you are my first guest who's also been on my previous podcast, the Quarter Mile podcast.
Yeah.
So I think this is like, I think for people that were fans of that, this would be like the first episode they tune in because you finally get to see people from the other show. And, like whenever there's spinoffs and you're like, I don't really care about that until you hear about recurring actors coming in. They're like, oh, well, then I'll go watch that episode.
Right.
So
this is like Nick Fury showing up in Iron Man. And
yes, absolutely. So, or like Captain America Civil War, which is really like pre-Avengers. Like it
literally. At what point was Captain America really the star of that movie? You know what I mean?
Right. That began, and then like the Doctor Strange movie, which was like everyone else but Doctor Strange, the second Doctor Strange movie. Yeah.
Yes.
So, which we could talk about movies all day. There's recorded episodes, including one of your podcasts, Core Memories. I think 3 or 4 on the Quarter Mile podcast you've been on. So if anyone wants to, if you hear us, gang, and you're like, man, they should talk about movies more often. It's out there. So
don't worry, it's out there.
But Cortney, beyond your bio, beyond the cool things that I just mentioned about you, who is Cortney Warner? How would you describe you beyond what we can read about you online?
Oh man, I think that's a great question. I think I'm hardworking and hopefully a good friend. I try to be anyway, and I really love movies and I love I love reading and listening to music. God, this just sounds like I'm making my own dating profile. You know what I
Right.
mean?
So if anyone wants to swipe right on
Yeah.
the
I like long walks on the beach. I'm just looking for that special someone, you know?
that's why we brought you on this podcast. We're gonna find you that special someone. It's gonna be
Oh
someone
my
from
goodness.
across the world listening to this, and they're gonna write in. They can send us messages and like sign me up. That's
Yeah. Oh, well, that would be ideal, honestly. Find me someone from online in a different country. Yeah, let's do that. That seems super not sketchy. I'm very
yeah,
very into
it's
that.
probably fine.
Oh yeah, totally. But I'm trying to think what else. That's kind of a hard question because it's so hard to not only associate yourself with the things that you do as a
Mhm.
comedian, like who I am outside of that. I have a cat. Her name's Margot. She's very sweet. And she takes up most of my time and energy when I'm home. She runs the house. This is her house
Yeah.
now, you know.
Occasionally, Courtney has sent me pictures of the cat watching TV or movies, and it's really
Yes,
funny because Margot. First of all, I think Margot and I probably have similar
you do.
movie and TV interests, and then
Yeah.
secondly, like she is intense. She is into those whatever you're screening with her.
Oh,
So
she loved Fast Furious 7 and she loved Superman. Those were the
good. She
two
has
and Star
good
Oh, and
taste,
Star Wars. Yeah, she likes Star Wars. I think anything that kind of
man.
moves fast on the screen, she's
Right.
like, you know,
I feel like if I ever have like a movie night or a movie marathon at my house, I'll text you like, hey, you should come to this, and also bring your cat.
bring
So
your cat. Yeah.
but I will say, you do when you talked about being you are incredibly hardworking. We're going to get into a lot of the projects that you do and participate in throughout this interview. But I also you mentioned being a good friend, and I see that to be true. And you're also
Thank
like
you.
good at bringing people together. Like I feel like a
Oh,
lot of
thank
the
you.
cool social moments I've had over the past few years have been like Cortney Warner parties.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, so that's a gift. That's a cool thing. So
Thank you. Yeah, I love throwing parties. I also recently got into this is also comedy related, but I also just I took a clown workshop. So I really love that. I loved being a clown.
tell me about let's talk. I didn't know this about you. Now it's like I want to know everything about this.
Oh
Tell me
yeah.
so how's the clown workshop? Like what's your impressions of it? And like also like what do you do at a clown workshop?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. First off, my impressions, I loved it. I want to do it all the time. It was taught by this guy who's he's from Spain but lives in England, and he has like a clown troupe, and he travels the world teaching workshops on how to teach people how to become like a classically trained clown. So I took a workshop with him a few weekends ago. It was like kind of adjacently through our friends at Third Coast,
Mhm.
but it was at the Forge here in Tennessee, so in a different space. And it was awesome. Like, it was a lot of physical stuff. So we did a lot of exercises. There's like a game where we had to walk around in a circle, walk around like in a group, and if someone tapped you, you had to say the name of someone else in the room. But and the person who you say the name of has to tap someone else, and they say the name. So it's a lot of like being alert and keeping your mind moving. And then
Right.
there were other exercises we did where he had us jump rope. Like he like spun this giant jump rope with another person. We had to like run through and jump, make eye contact with everybody in the audience while we were doing it. It was really fascinating. So like really silly stuff. And then we would have to do stuff like we would have to come out behind a curtain and like do a little fashion show. But if it didn't work, we'd have to just start dancing, but maintaining big on the eye contact with the audience.
Yeah.
But the essence of clown is like you're not trying to be funny, you're trying to be great and or beautiful, and I think that's really
Huh.
nice, you know.
Oh, that is really nice. No, not enough people talk about that. Like, because when I think of clowns, I think of either funny or scary. Like, I don't think beautiful. I don't think
Yeah,
like so. Well, that's cool.
yeah,
Maybe we
I
need
know, me too.
maybe the world needs some more clowns. I also feel like, and I know
I think
you would
so.
appreciate this because you're a movie buff as well. But like, there needs to be a movie about a clown training camp. Like, it needs like
Yes,
what you
oh
guys
my
are doing.
goodness.
That needs to be a I don't know what the story would be, but like that's the start of it. Like
Yeah, even like a mockumentary would be so funny, you know what I mean? Because
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was awesome. Because on the last day of our workshop, we had to come in costumes. But the costume could be anything. It could be just a funny hat or wigs or
Mhm.
an actual Halloween costume. And we stayed in the costumes the whole time, and we did all of our exercises, and it was a lot of like just a lot of focus on like physical movement and being connected with yourself and with your scene partners, and It was really cool. It's really different from stand up, where I think stand up is so like in your head that at least for me, I almost forget about my physical being. Like I don't associate the two when I'm doing stand up usually. Like I'll move around and I'll like do this and that, but when I watch back videos of myself, I'm like, oh, I just stand still. I don't do anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So clowning was really, really helpful in that way.
So speaking of comedy and comedy shows, I'd love to talk about you just headlined one of the
Yeah.
Clean Comedy Collective shows literally last night.
Yeah.
Well, for us in real time last night, people listening to this would have been like 2 weeks ago. But you just headlined at Corvette Lanes in Murray, Kentucky. Our friend Brad runs that show. And I know I'm excited. I'm going to be headlining there in May. But
Nice.
that's one of our kind of our regular CCC shows. People that are listening, if you ever go to our website, you can go to our the shows section of our websites and see which shows we have going. Usually every month we update it. But we have this one at a bowling alley in Corvette Lanes in Murray, Kentucky,
Yeah.
and it's been going for a while. I mean, several months now. And so I'd love to hear selfishly, so that I know what to expect, but also I'd
Oh
love to
yeah.
hear about that experience from you, from your perspective, as a comedian. How was the show? Yeah.
Yeah, no, the show was amazing. Absolutely packed out. Everyone was great. I didn't really know what to expect because I don't think I've ever performed in Murray before.
Mhm.
I wasn't even sure like how far away it was, but it was only like, hour and 50-minute drive from Nashville from where we live. Um, and yeah, the bowling alley itself was like, when I walked in, I was like, wow, this is really noisy. Because bowling alley, the first floor, second floor, an arcade, tons of kids running around. And I was like, I don't know how this is gonna
Right.
go. you know but I was like, you know what, we'll just see how it goes. But then yeah, our Brad has the party room kind of blocked off, and as soon as you shut the doors there, you don't really hear anything. It's so nice. They had service, they had servers in and out of the room, so it was almost like a comedy club in that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, everyone did great. There was three other openers on the show, including Jessie Leanne from
Mhm.
Nashville. I got to bring her up with me, and then
That's cool.
I did about 45 minutes. And I was a little nervous because I just wasn't sure what they were going to like, because
Mhm.
and I tried to watch everyone else's sets, and I was trying to gauge like the vibe. I think the vibe was overall really great and they were hungry and ready for like laughter, but you just never know. Like sometimes it's like, oh,
Right.
it could go great, but then me as the headliner could go and bomb for 45 minutes. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So, but
Right.
yeah.
And it's interesting as a headliner. On one hand, you get the benefit of watching what works
Yeah.
and kind of they're warmed up by the time they get to you. I did a show last night where they were eating for the first two comedians. And so,
Yep.
especially during the feature, you heard a lot of silverware clanging together. And then they were finally done and like ready to laugh by the time I got up there as a headliner. And you do kind of get this. Sometimes it's, I want to say the start of your routine is easier as a headliner because
Oh yeah.
they're under the impression of like, oh, this person's the main event. They're going to be
Yeah.
so you already have them kind of on your side. But what a lot of people don't realize is you have to keep that momentum for
I
you like
know.
45 minutes yesterday, like or however
Yeah.
long. And so that's why it's really important. Like that's why the headliners are usually the most experienced ones because they have the material to keep the momentum.
Right.
And so it's definitely a different than doing like a 15 or 20-minute set because you're like, I know for me, like about 30, 40 minutes in, there's a little voice in my head that's like, are you still talking? Like, are
I
you still
know, me
doing
too.
this?
Oh, me too. Like with the set that long, you have like your peaks and valleys. You kind of go along, you're doing the thing. I tried some newer stuff. They weren't feeling it, but they weren't mad. They were
Mhm.
just like, okay. And I'm like, okay, maybe not the demographic for
Yeah.
what this is, because a lot of the audience was like skewed a bit older, which I thought was
Mhm.
interesting too, and also made me worried that they weren't going to get everything that I was going to say. But thankfully, they totally understood most of it. And so the stuff that they didn't get or it didn't land, I was like, okay, we're moving on from that. I have more stuff about my family I can talk about that I think you would love, frankly.
Right.
Um,
That's
and yeah,
awesome.
and then thankfully I was able to end on a joke. I ended on a joke that I have on my special that I end my special on as well. And I hadn't done it really since the special because it's kind of a longer story and it's kind of out of context. It doesn't really fit very well. But I think built up enough goodwill with them, and I talked about enough other things that kind of fit with that. So it was like a 7, 8 minute long story, and it ended really well.
You had talked about your special, which, if we're going by the time frame that this
Yeah.
episode airs, dropped yesterday. So I would love to
Yes.
talk more about the special. Tell us whatever you want to tell us about it, like how you made it, what it's called, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just do your whole special right here online if you want. No,
Yeah. We have an hour and 15 minutes. Let's go. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, yeah, it's called Confessions of a Homeschooler. I recorded it last May at Third Man Records at the Blue Room here in Nashville. And it was definitely it's the work of my life, as I like to say. I do have a special that I put out a few years ago, and I'm thankful for that one. It definitely was what I needed to put out before I made this one, but this one does feel like I made what I wanted to make, and kind of I got a lot out of me. Like was able to work through a lot of different things from my personal life, being homeschooled, being adopted, being raised religious, and just different things that I'm like kind of I'm thinking about now in my 30s as like a hopefully fully formed adult. A lot of it was just kind of me telling stories and reflecting on just how strange my upbringing was. Having just like any one of those things is like enough to talk about in stand up or in your life, but having a cocktail of different things that kind of make you different from a lot of other people, especially like our peers in comedy. I feel like it was a lot for me to kind of reckon with as a person, to be able to work through, to be able to make it funny. So I'm very thankful that I was able to have the time and the resources to process a lot of these different experiences that I could bring in to putting it into my art form. So it's a lot of stories about being homeschooled, growing up in the church choir, up until like being an adult woman and dating and managing friendships and having day jobs and managing mental health and all of that. So it's kind of a wide array of things that looking back on its face maybe aren't like funny subjects. You know what I mean? Looking back, like a lot of this isn't probably that funny. Like if you say, oh, this is what it's about, people are like, oh my goodness, like you want to talk about your personal trauma and like your coping mechanisms now as an adult. And it's like, yeah, I guess it is like kind of dark, but I'm thankful that I was at least able to add some levity to it. So I'm really proud of it. And it took me, I say it took like 3 years from the last special, but really it's taken me like 32, almost 33 years, to make it this point, my whole life.
Yeah.
And it came out through Burn This Records, which is a comedy record label in Los Angeles. Brandy Posey runs it. She's awesome. Cool. And so being able to work with two really cool labels, getting to be able to record it at Third Man and them helping me out with the audio and all of that, and being able to put it out through this really cool punk rock comedy record label. It feels like it's all. Oh, dude. So what's really cool about Burn This Records, I want to plug them, is they got to do all the comedy for Warped Tour this past year. And cool. Warped Tour's never had comedy until this. So I'm really fingers crossed they bring it back so I could
oh man, that would be so cool. That is that I would love just to like, even if I had a small set at the Warped Tour, just so I could go to Warped Tour. I'd be like, sure,
same.
let me do a 5-minute routine and then go to Warped Tour.
I know, that's really what I want. It's like, no, like yeah, I'll do my set. Oh, is that yellow card playing? Yeah, get out of my way. I gotta get in the pit,
people show up to the shows like, where's Drew? Isn't he supposed to be performing? Well, yellow cards are also on right now. Yeah. So he just,
Yeah, so sorry about that. Green Day dropped in and did a set. My bad, Yeah.
I feel like everyone in the audience is like, we get it. Like
yeah, we understand.
but that is so cool. I think a really interesting and cool part about comedy specials, when you put together a whole album and you release it, is you're really sharing a big chunk of yourself with your audience. Whoever, there's usually I know with the specials I've put out, there's just like, sometimes you can't explain it, but there's a part of yourself that's in that special. You're sharing a narrative, you're sharing a part of your life. It sounds like with this one, that was your recent one, we were really kind of sharing some of your trauma or some of your life or some of your everything, and then you're doing the cool creative comedian part, which is finding humor in it, which maybe helps you with it, but it also helps other people have similar experiences. I think that's a beautiful thing. When we drop this episode, and we always have like Cortney's socials and stuff in the links and in the descriptions, I think I'll be able to also link her special on it, so you might just be able to go and listen to it right now.
That'd be great.
And if I don't, then just go to her socials, which her site will be linked, and you can find it through there, but I'm going to try to make it easy on y'all and just have it right where you can click on it from this episode if you guys want to. Or you can keep listening to us talk, which is an equally as good option. So you have a show at the Blue Room. I'd love to hear more about that show. And then just even if you want to expand it a little bit, because you've produced so many good shows. When I first moved back to Nashville 3 or 4 years ago, you were running what was my favorite open mic and like a highlight of my Wednesday nights at the Bowery Vault. I used my Wednesday activities was listening on the way to the Bowery Vault. I would listen to a Smallville podcast.
That's right.
And then I would do the open mic comedy at the Bowery Vault and absolutely love it. And it was like a good one. Like that was like a nice, fun Wednesday for me.
It was always a good hang, you know what I mean? And it's funny. It's like, you take for granted things in the moment, but looking back, it was a lot of work, but it was so much fun. And it helped me grow as a comedian. It was very cool to watch other people grow as comedians, I miss that show. I don't want to run a weekly show ever again like that. I mean, like in that capacity, like doing like a dive motel or something, I absolutely love doing and hope that I can do that again. But yeah, so with the Blue Room show, I can start there and then kind of expand on from that. So with the Blue Room show, I've been running that show there. We just had our 3-year anniversary, the show back in January that we just did. And that's just been that is like the great joy and honor of my life to run the show there. I lucked out because with the Blue Room, for a little bit of backstory, so Third Man Records, the Blue Room is owned by Jack White, famed musician and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, very all around really cool guy, also big fan of comedy, which has been great. And the Blue Room had tried having comedy a few different times through different people who tried to run shows there. It didn't really work out. They had a couple different iterations of a show there, and by the time that I came through, because we did like a nonprofit fundraiser show there, about 4 years ago, like around like Christmas time in like 2022, I think, and it was like music and comedy and like all sorts of things, and it was able to bring in a crew of my friends. Like I think that first show was like me, MK Gannon, Sarah Dalton, Sarah Phi. I think Fiona Colley was on it. Yeah, like a lot of
man, what a lineup that is.
I know.
That's a solid lineup. So
I think that was what we did for that fundraiser show. And I was talking to one of the managers there who was running the green room, and I kind of knew the history behind like them and having local comedy and stuff. And I was like, hey, tonight was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And she was like, oh my goodness, we loved it. This was so awesome. And I was like, I would love to try and at least do like one comedy show here. Do you think you guys would be open to like letting me come in and like bringing in the similar crew of people, similar vibes, And so she gave me her business card, and I reached out like a week later, and then we had our first show booked in March. And I remember talking with them, and I've also been to a couple other comedy nights before then there too, and they were always like, there were maybe like 10 to 20 people there at any given time. Like, it's like for most like showcases, it's like kind of hard to get people out, And when I agreed to work with them, we did our first show in March of 2023. And I checked in about ticket sales maybe like 10 days before. And I was like, how are ticket sales looking? And in my mind, I was like, oh my goodness, if we could just get like 30 people in the door, then they would maybe believe in what I could do here. And then they're like, oh, you actually were at 44 tickets day before or 10 days before. Yeah. And they're like, that's really great for comedy. We don't normally see that. And then I reached out day of, just kind of curious. And they're like, oh, you sold out the whole thing. You sold 150 tickets for the first show. Isn't that crazy?
That is insane. Did you do anything specific that you can attribute? This is what I did to make that happen. Or was it just right time, right place?
Yeah, I think I worked really hard to promote it on social media. I had posters. They hung up posters. Also, Third Man is just really good at promoting their shows. Like they're like the one venue I've worked with that like really like they'll get it on every single website. They'll get it on every single calendar. They'll have posters printed and like hanging in the storefront. They have a built-in fan base because that record label is like has like a bit of a cult following. So like they have newsletters that go out to people at local events, and so they do a lot. So I'd say it's like 50-50 on like the legwork of the promotion, which is like, it should be that way, but not always the case, as a producer.
Yeah. I feel like cause I'm always talking to venues about that too, where like, I try to be as clear when we start talking. It's like, listen, we both need to equally try to promote this show.
Yes.
It's cause I've worked with venues before that assume, well, you'll bring the whole audience, and I'll be like, I don't think I can. I'll
Yeah.
try, but
Yeah.
right. So, but when it's a double effort, when we're both doing it, that makes such a difference.
Yeah. So I think really that, and then like I think, I always say that I peaked too quickly with that show because it's like, man, out of the gate sold out. And again, it's like a local showcase. It's all local comedians. I have a local musical act at the end. No big
Mhm.
headliners. No one that's like a big draw per se. I don't think I've booked anybody that like would be considered that on these shows. So it's really like a lovely experience to be able to see that local people in the community want to come and support local artists. And everyone that I try and book on these shows, musicians and comedians, are either run shows or have run shows or like poor or are contributing to their community in different ways or have
Yeah,
run open mics or stuff like that. So it's a nice gift that I try to like give other
I
comics
love that.
because
And I think
it's yeah.
I think it's cool that, and maybe that's part of the appeal of the show for the audience
Yeah.
is it's local people. It's like they're
Hmm.
supporting the independent art scene here in
Yeah.
Nashville. And so even if there isn't a huge name, maybe that's part of the fun. It's like,
Yeah.
I literally just, I had some wonderful people at the show last night who've been following my comedy career since I started, honestly. And whenever
Yeah.
I'm in West Tennessee, they'll show up. But they're like huge comedy fans and they go to shows anywhere they go, like cruises locally in Jackson,
Yeah.
Tennessee, wherever. And it's never because it's like, oh, this is my favorite comedian. It's like we went to a show to go watch. I mean, and they used to have a weekly show in Jackson at a little
Yeah.
comedy club that doesn't exist there. And they were there every week
Wow.
just to see the local talent, and
Wow.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's cool. So
I think so too.
another production related question, because I know you've produced several shows, and I think people, it's always healthy for comedians to realize that a good comedy show has a start date, but often it eventually will have an
Yes.
expiration date. No show in the history of comedy has just lasted forever, right?
No.
Um, and so how's it like? How do you handle when it's time to be done producing a certain show? Like when it's like this is the last one. Is it do you feel like a sense of relief? Do you feel like a sense of, I don't know, disappointment or failure,
Yeah.
or do you feel like because me and you both we've had shows come and go, and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So I would love to, because I know anyone listening to this, we might have some producers listening to this too, that this is
Yeah.
something that they need to consider.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in my experience, usually when I know a show is done is when the venue is like, we don't want to do this anymore.
Right. So, yeah.
um, but I think usually, but thankfully it's never been due to like the lack of quality of the show. It's usually either
Mhm.
the venue's closing or they can't afford to maintain this or they can't afford to stay open on these certain nights.
Mhm.
But like and for me back in the day, I think this is also a testament maybe to either hopefully some like healthy mental development or whatever.
Mhm.
Um when a show would be ending or something, I think I would panic and be like, oh my goodness, I have to find another show. I kind of monkey vine from one show to another
Mhm.
and always be producing. And I don't know if that was always the healthiest option for me
Mhm.
versus like taking a beat, maybe doing other people's shows for a bit and then coming back. But I think since
Right.
I started producing shows, which was like year two, I think for me of doing comedy, into up until now, so 8 years, I've always had a show going and at least one, if not multiple.
Mhm.
And so I think for me, it was always like that panic of like that. I had a lot of self-worth, I think, tied to like running these shows of like, oh, if I have a show, I can book other people, then they'll book me because I think there's like a level of me thinking I'm not good enough to be booked just for the sake of being booked,
Mhm.
and there's still
Yeah.
that fear. There's still that fear there, that self-inflicted, but also like people can be mean and
Yeah.
get in your head about stuff, especially when you're a young comic, and so you think that that's all you can offer is being a comedian and a producer. You can't just be a comedian, at least for me. So a
Mhm.
lot of times it was panic. But now that time has gone on, I feel a little bit of like relief sometimes where I'm like, okay, like the ball and chain is gone. Now I can like focus on other things. So I think for me, like around December of the past year, I had a revelation where I was like, I'm not happy with my career where it's going. And
Mhm.
I think most everyone maybe will have this at one point in their life, whatever you do, comedy or
Mhm.
anything else, because I was running a bunch of shows, I was hosting a bunch. I didn't feel like I was getting anything out of hosting because if I'm trying new material it's really hard to do new material as a host, because it's like you as if you're going to do the job of a host the correct way, your job is to bring people in, basically fall on the sword for the other comedians.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to get people on your side when you're testing out new stuff, you
Yeah.
know. And I just was getting to a point of being extremely burnt out. And so when some of my shows started going away, I felt a little more emboldened to be like, okay, like this is fine, like I'm gonna be fine. And the only thing that I've stepped away from truly in recent memory that I like handed off was my open mic at Springwater here in
Mm-hmm.
Nashville. And I mean, you know, I haven't really talked about this a whole lot publicly, and I'm happy to do it on here. I was like really, I felt really weird about it, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever like knowingly given something away
Mm-hmm.
where it was like fully in my control that I'm stepping away, you know what I mean? And also like there was a lot of like I don't know, there's a lot of like context built up with that open mic too. Like I was hosting it, I was working on it with a friend of mine who, you know, works at Springwater, and we had a whole lot of like a whole thing going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was staying true to myself and like what I needed to do for myself. And with that like that epiphany of me being like, I'm not happy, I don't want to host things anymore. I had to be like, I can't do this anymore for my own mental health. And so I
Mm-hmm.
don't build resentment, because the last thing I want to do is build resentment towards the room, the comics, my friend, whatever, like because I could see that coming down the line, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I handed it off to another wonderful new comic in our scene, Cam Gumpy. And I went to the first one, well, the first and only one that he hosted, because
I hated
true to
that I missed
form,
it.
yeah, I know. True to form, the venue canceled all Tuesday night entertainment, including comedy, like 1 month after I handed it
Yeah.
off. But I went to the one that he hosted, the only one that happened, and it was fun, and I was happy to get up there, and I felt like I had a good set, but it felt a little weird, you know. It felt a little bit
Mm-hmm.
like, wait a second, like watching him kind of like do similar old bits with bartender, my friend,
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, and I was like, hey, wait a second, I wait, that's what I. It almost felt like you were almost you're almost like a ghost, almost watching
Right.
over your old you know, your old domain. Was a really weird experience for me. But overall, but I knew like walking away, I was like, you know what, I'm happy that I handed it off. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's in good hands. And then a month later, it's done.
Well, I think a reoccurring theme that comes up frequently in the interviews that I've been having so far, all five of them, is
Yeah.
sometimes as comedians, as professional entertainers, we are put in a unique position where we have to choose ourselves over the entertainment. Comedy will always be like, you should do
Yeah.
more, you should do more, you should do more. There's always
Yeah.
another show you could produce. There's always you could keep doing an open mic. And sometimes, you know, it's some and with other of the guests, we've talked about how sometimes you have to pick your family or your kids over doing that one comedy thing. It does feel weird because there's a very good
Right.
chance that if you choose your family and kids over this opportunity, you may not get that opportunity again. But what you're
I
really doing
know.
is, you know, choosing a better life for yourself. You know,
Yeah,
comedy's never gonna be like, hold on a second, you need to slow down. It's always gonna be expecting more and more and more. But
for
even for
sure.
us single people who, you know, don't have families and kids, sometimes we have to choose ourselves over comedy. And what that
Yeah.
could mean is when you pass shows on as a producer, you know, you don't know if it's gonna keep going or if it's gonna, you know,
Yeah.
not. And the reality is whether it does or not, you're gonna be better off because you knew you needed to pass it off.
Yeah.
And that's hard though, because people from the outside looking in, like, yeah, but you could have kept doing that show or whatever. And you know,
Yeah.
when we feel that burnout, when we feel that fatigue, when comedy becomes less fun, it becomes meaningless. When it's not fun anymore, you don't have the strength to get through all the crap. It becomes
Yeah.
overwhelming. So you were a fantastic producer and host for a lot of reasons, but I think
Thank
one
you.
of them relates to kind of what we said earlier about you being a friend and how you're good at like bringing people together, you know, at your house parties and stuff like that. And when you are running a show, we see that with how you bring the audience involved. It becomes like an experience, but
Yeah.
also I feel like you do that with the comedians that are booked on the show. Like it's always
Yeah.
your shows are always very fun to be on because it feels like to a degree, it's like, oh, we're just hanging out with friends. And I guess we'll do comedy
Yeah.
while we're here, you know?
Yeah.
But and for anyone having similar experiences with maybe potentially feeling like they need to take a step back from their show or just other stuff in comedy, because sometimes that fatigue and burnout is real. I feel like Cortney, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you'll probably agree with this.
Mhm.
Um, you go through those phases sometimes. Like I know not too long ago, I had to take a hard look at which shows and things I needed to keep doing and which I needed to put aside. And I basically, a lot of them where I felt like I was doing 80% of the work and not getting like those were the things that I was like, okay, those need to put aside. And so I dropped a lot of stuff, and now I've had enough rest where I feel like I'm picking on more stuff. So I think just our realms of creativity and show production and stuff like that, I think it comes and goes, like, and that's okay.
I agree.
You know?
Oh, for sure. Like, now, when I gave up Spring Water and when Dive Motel ended and all of that, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just have Blue Room. I'll do that a couple times a year and whatever. And then, and what, I have a new show coming up in March, hopefully a new monthly show. But it's one of those things too, with having the time and the break, also kind of understanding your value and what you bring as a producer and as a comedian. I go into these meetings now about these shows and whatever, being like, I have very specific things that I need from them. And if they can't meet these pretty basic requirements, but instead of me being like, oh, whatever you want, it's okay, then I walk. But like, because I think I have a better idea of what I'm looking for and like a standard of like how I work, that I'm able to at least now in this like 2.0 phase of me being able to get what I need out of it, so that everyone walks away feeling satisfied. And so I think it definitely comes in waves, but also like that time of reflection also helps your worth.
Yeah. And because the more you do it, the better shows you can start producing, because when someone offers you not a good deal, you're like, that's
definitely.
And maybe it was a good deal if you were a new comedian, if you were wanting to start your own show, if you're wanting to learn. But I mean, when I interact with venues, and because this is how I do it. I have one show, and it's funny because it's not even a free show for me anymore. I started when I moved back here. I started one show at a coffee shop about a mile from where I lived. And that was like my freebie show. Like they didn't pay for anything we made was off of tips or whatever. At the time, it was a free show to attend. So but I used that to be able to book other shows, to like look at how this one's doing, and that helped me get other shows. But now, I have enough experience producing shows, and you're the same way. Where like when people were like, "Can you do this for free?" We can honestly say, "No, I'll do a good job, but you'll have to pay me." And then I, in the same breath, let them know, if you want a free show, there are other comedians you can reach out to that will do it. They won't do it as well, but they also don't have a decade of experience doing it.
My goodness. Yeah. I'm in the same boat with that now too, where it's like, if anyone gives me any pushback for that kind of stuff, it's like, well, then why did you reach out to me? Like, clearly you sought me out. You can find anyone else who's 1 to 2 years into comedy who will happily do it for free. Good luck with that. I don't say it like that, but in my mind, I'm like, good luck,
Well, it's the old adage, you get what you pay for. Honestly, that's so true. That's true when you're producing shows. When I work with places now, I give them like tiers. I was like, if you paid me $1,000, I could get you a lot better comedians if you paid me $300. Like that's
for
just
sure.
So that's just I'm glad we both have similar experiences with that, and I'm glad we could talk about that. I do want to say it's a Clean Comedy Collective podcast, so I feel like I can plug the Clean Comedy Collective sometimes. One of the things I love about what we've done with the Clean Comedy Collective is I have a team of people that have helped me lead it. And so over the past 3 years, there's 100% been times when I could care less about the production of the Clean Comedy Collective. I'll be honest, I was just burned out. I was busy doing other things. And I even got to the point, there's been a few times like, do you all still want to do this? Because honestly, I'm not feeling it. And then like the other 3 people like, yeah, we got it. So I think I love working in a team, because there are times when I'm not able to give 100%. In fact, I'm giving 10, 20%. And then the other ones can cover for it. And that makes a huge difference for me. So if people producing, there's no rule that says you have to do it alone.
100%. I've never really worked with a team of people before. I've never really co-produced. I've done like one-offs with friends before. I wish that I had that more, but also I don't know. Like, I think the shows that I have now are so like, I have such a system that I don't know how I'd bring someone else in without making more work for myself at this point. But I definitely think for anything big down the line, I would probably want a team of people to work with on that. So it seems like it really helps.
It like has its pros and cons, and the biggest con is like especially when you're more experienced, if you're working with people, you can't be like, listen, I know this better than you. And so we should do it my way. I mean, you can, but that's how conflict happens. So,
Yeah,
but
it's not gonna go over very well.
yeah, you can absolutely say that. But well, before I jump to maybe some fun questions or different questions that zoom in on you as a person more than you as a comedian, I did have another topic I wanted to talk about. And it was funny, if you read the questions, I couldn't really word the question well. I was like, well, it'll make sense when we talk about it. But I am I here let me tell you about you from my perspective. So I remember 9 years ago when you were starting out. I was also in the comedy scene before I moved to West Tennessee for several years. And I remember the comedy scene back then. And I don't think you'll think I'm being mean if I say like it was rougher. It was definitely a lot more male dominated. There's a lot more rudeness in it. It was less developed, and sometimes it felt like kind of high school bullying or whatever kind of thing. And and as bad as it was for the dudes, it was 100% worse for the women. And by that, there was like three of you. It was rough. And there were more than three women trying comedy, but often they would be discouraged by the state of the scene, and then they would stop trying. That was just kind of part of it. But then I moved to West Tennessee, and I came back 6 years later. And one of the things that impressed me, again, this was just from my perspective, and I'm going to let you tell me the truth here, and we'll see how correct I was. But from my perspective, I was so impressed with you, and then MK Gannon, who you mentioned, who's a friend and another comedian. She's in California now, but she used to be in Nashville. You two had developed such a I guess technically it's called the East Side Comedy. We have there's where so many shows where it was you create space for women comedians to go to open mics and get booked on shows, which was kind of different than how it used to be. And we saw more than three women comedians in it. And it not just women comedians, but like LGBTQ plus progressive affirming. A lot of the rooms you do that's kind of the part of the scene. And one of the things I enjoy about the Nashville scene now is, and we're still developing, we're not perfect, but there is kind of a section for any kind of comedian, whether it's a clean comedian, whether it's a really dirty comedian, whether it's a progressive affirming room, whether it's a urban room, black room. Like we have our subsections, and like in an ideal world, all those sections work together, but this isn't an ideal world. Oftentimes you have cliques in comedy, but I feel like you and MK were instrumental in starting the for lack of a better word, the women comedy scene here in Nashville, or the more progressive one. And I'd always been really impressed with that. And I wanted to know if that was me just thinking something, or if there was actually work if that's actually what happened, or you could speak more into that or your experience with that. So
well, first off, thank you. And with that, I gotta give, we gotta give credit to MK for that, because she really did spearhead East Side Comedy. That was totally her thing, and her running shows at Lipstick Lounge, and then she did the open mic at Cobra, and then eventually Dad Motel. She was really instrumental in building up all these spaces, and I felt lucky enough to be her friend and to to work with her kind of adjacently with those things, that I was able to start doing my own shows, and that's where Bowery Vault came into play. And then the other, even the shows that I produced beforehand, kind of always seeing how she was doing things, and how she really made it safe for everybody, because you go to open mics and you go to shows that as as a woman, person of color, a queer person, whoever, and you're like, am I the only person here who is this way? Am I gonna am I gonna have a hard time here? And a lot of times, especially back then, you were going to have a hard time. You were going to be the butt of the joke the whole night. God, I remember there were so many times that any little slip up that I did, at an open mic, or whatever, and I would just be made fun of the whole night, on stage. And the high school bully, and the hazing, it almost felt like, but also we're all full-blown adults when this was going on. So
that's the weird part about it, is a high school bullying among adults.
It's like y'all are 40, okay, but sure, whatever. So kind of once I got to know her and got to meet her through doing comedy, kind of saw how she was running things, I thought that was really cool and really special, and I always felt very supported on her shows, and then we became good friends. And so I'd say I'd say that it's really that whole section of Nashville comedy really, I think, is her, and I just happen to be lucky to come in and be support on the back end with some of my own smaller shows there. But yeah, I'm very thankful for it. Like, that's how I've met a lot of my friends. Like, there's people who will go to like the Lakeside open mic, or or go and hang out and watch Lipstick Lounge show, or come to
Mhm.
Bowery Vault, or come and hang out at Dive, who I wouldn't maybe have met if I were just only going to the East Room or only going to Third Coast or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's been cool to kind of see how that's been built out, and like people who are like, oh, I want to try comedy, but I don't know if I would fit in here, and they'll come and do it
Hmm.
once, and then they'll continue to do comedy, and now they're doing great, and it's it's again going back to like you mentioned, like throwing a party and all that stuff, and like
Hmm.
kind of bringing people in. It's just like, comedy is hard enough without having people be mean to you. So it's
Hmm.
like, and it's supposed to be fun. Like, it's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to have fun laughing with your friends. So I try to bring as much of that to everything that I do as possible. And I think that East Side Comedy and MK also, like, that was her goal for all of that as well.
Okay, cool. I love that. And I also, I see you're being a good friend by being like, it was mostly her, but I bet you if we did a three-way call here when we had her, she would probably, because anytime you're doing something and it's so much easier when you have friends that support you. Sometimes, I mean,
Yeah.
there's not the hardest thing to get stuff done. It's hardest when you feel alone. So having the friend, having the person who you're doing it with, that often gives us the strength to do way more than we thought we could,
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you guys had your own women progressive comedy collective, and
Yeah.
so good for you. um Now, we are going to shift gears a little bit here, because you have a wonderful movie rewatch podcast, and anyone who knows me on this podcast knows I'm a big fan of movie rewatch podcasts. I think it's wonderful. Core Memory podcast. I'm on one of your upcoming episodes that's coming out, or I don't
Yeah.
know if it'll be out by the 28th or whatever,
Let
but
me let me double check the schedule while we're here, because I'm going like week to week at this point, because I'm just trying to keep up with life. But I will say, next to this week's episode, well, I guess it'll be 2 weeks at this point for listeners. CJ Walton will be the
Yep.
guest. But yeah, your episode comes out on March 20th.
Okay, so it's not anytime soon, but that
Yeah,
works. But CJ Walton is my former Quarter Mile podcast co-host and partner,
yeah.
and so that'll be a good episode. But that it was such a fun. If you want, you can tell us a little bit about your podcast, give it a little plug, and then obviously people listening, you probably like podcasts. So if you like
Right.
movies and podcasts, then check hers out.
Yeah, definitely. So Core Memory is a podcast about movies where I have guests on every week, and we discuss the first movie they ever remember seeing and their favorite movie as an adult, and seeing any correlations between the two, if there's any correlations, and also how both movies have impacted them into their life. And because whether or not we realize that media and what it does impact us, especially movies, music, books, all those things, that TV. And I think movies are just like, it's just, yeah, I think movies are a great barometer for people too, of like, oh, like you may not have a lot in common with somebody, but most everyone has seen Star Wars, and you can talk about that. And I think that's cool. I think that art can really bring people together and give people like a nice like purpose and fuel to their lives. And movies are a big one for me. So I love getting to talk about it.
For anyone listening to our podcast, especially if you're listening on like a Buzzsprout, like the Buzzsprout website,
Mhm. Yeah.
there's a section that's like I forgot what it's called, the pod roll, or like podcasts we recommend or whatever. And Core Memory Podcast is on that list. So if you're like, wow, I'd rather let me turn this podcast off right now and go listen to that one, you can, if especially if you're on the Buzzsprout, you could just pop it over there and get it.
Nice.
A question I wanted to ask you though, because you do have a very cultured movie opinions, but like I want to know what is your guilty pleasure movie of choice, like the movie that you shouldn't enjoy for
Yeah.
whatever reason, but you're like, man, this movie is just so good.
I don't know. I don't know if I fully believe in a guilty pleasure for movies. I try to not believe in guilty pleasures in general. I think just because you
Hmm.
should enjoy life, unless it's like
Yeah.
something really bad, like unless it's just like criminal activity or you're hurting somebody, then yeah, you should feel a lot of guilt about that, and you should
Yeah,
stop
don't
doing it.
don't if that's if your guilty pleasure is murder,
Yeah.
maybe look inward a little bit.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe like, oh, I just want to murder for a little treat to myself. Like, no, don't do that. But for me, I guess like what comes to mind immediately, although I feel less like embarrassment about loving this movie, but I do love this movie so much. It's called Friends with Kids. And it came out in like 2011, and it stars like everyone who was funny and famous at that time. I feel like, it stars John Hamm, Adam Scott, Maya Rudolph, Kristen Wiig, Megan Fox, Chris O'Dowd. Oh my God, there's so many people in that movie. Like a lot of
Yeah,
really,
sounds
really
awesome.
fun. Yeah, and it's like everybody, and it's like, and think about it, it came out like a few months after Bridesmaids came out, which is basically the same
Mhm.
cast of people.
Yeah.
And it's about these two best friends, Adam Scott and Jennifer Westfeld, who she like directed them and wrote the movie as well. It's about these two people who are best friends, and but they're dating other people. They're trying to like find their person, but then
Mhm.
they decide to have a kid together because they're like, let's just get the kid out of the way so we
Right.
can have our kid, but it won't ruin our relationships down the line because they see all their friends having relationship issues after having kids, and they're like, oh, well, we're already best friends, it won't matter. So they have a kid together, and then they try dating other people. Then of course that doesn't work out, because feelings get
Yeah.
involved, and it's so
Mhm.
good. That movie, I cry. That movie makes me cry every time I watch it. I won't tell you when or where. If you watch it and you want to DM me, I'll tell you, but you have to watch it
Right.
first.
That'd
But
be an
it's
interesting thing for the comment section. If you have a guess, go ahead and
yeah,
drop it in. Let's see who's
yeah.
correct. So if there was a movie about you, who would be the actor or actress that you would have play you?
Oh man, see, this is tough. For it's I saw that question and I've been thinking
Mm,
about it. It's tough because there aren't a lot of like Asian actors.
mhm.
So if I pick someone else that would seem like I'm whitewashing, and I'm not trying to do that, or I'm picking like a dude or something. But like
Right.
I don't know, for some reason, the first person that came to mind, and I'm just gonna say it because it is silly, it was Jason Statham.
I would love that so much. I would love seeing Jason Statham's version of you.
Yeah, he just has like a black wig and like
Oh
has
my
a cat.
gosh.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness gracious. And all like the goofy outfits that I wear for comedy. That was my
Yeah.
first like knee-jerk reaction was I want Jason Statham to play
I
me.
think that would be great. I would love a scene of the movie where he's doing like your stand-up routine.
Yeah.
Uh
It's like, oh well, I can't do an accent. I can do his accent, but like I'm just talking about it's like, it's really hard out here dating. I like these skinny guys and like
There we go. I think I could not have picked a more perfect answer for that
thank you.
that question. But I was like, I wonder if she's gonna go with an Asian actress. And I was like, and I couldn't think of like
Yeah.
one that I feel like would be a good Courtney Warner.
I
So
mean,
I guess
maybe Aquafina just because of age and like that, but also like I don't think her and I have a lot in common.
right. Well, that's the acting part. She's got to figure it out.
Yeah, that's
She's
her. That's
got
her
to.
job.
That's yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
not my problem. Yeah,
Aquafina would do fine,
yeah.
but I still would prefer Jason Statham.
Oh my goodness, I would love it if it were Jason Statham, but I have all of my friends as my friends cast in the movie, but he's just
Yep.
there. Oh my goodness.
Actually, my family's wild. So my grandma used to be really racist, if you can believe it or not. She's not anymore because she's dead. Yeah, it wasn't like she watched Get Out and was like, oh, God. Huh. Nah, grandma died with hate in her heart and a slur on her lips. But she hated everybody. I will give her that. She hated everybody. She even hated the Beatles because they're British. She just didn't understand it. She didn't get it. I remember one day we were hanging out and she was just talking about how much she hated Asian people. And I was cognizant enough to know, who I was at that point, at least kind of surface level. And so I remember sitting there with her and being like, well, Grandma, do you hate me? I'm Asian. And she was just like, no, honey, you're part of the family. That transcends race. Don't worry about it. Just open your eyes up a little bit more. We almost got them. Come on, just open them up a little bit more. Come on.
Well, Courtney, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I want to give you a space to plug whatever you want to plug. Let us know where to find you, what's coming up, all the good things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you can find me on all social media platforms at Cortney Warner 13. Courtney with no U, then Warner like Warner Brothers, and 13 like the number. So easy enough. You got it. And yeah, my special confessions of a homeschooler just came out as the time that you're listening to this. Please Go watch it on YouTube, stream it. Ideally, if you want to buy it on iTunes, I'd really prefer that. But but whatever you can do, I'd love for you to check that out. I also have Core Memory comes out new episodes every Friday. We're in the middle of season 2 right now. You can catch Drew's episode coming down the pike in a few weeks, and you can get that wherever you get your podcast. Again, if you want to listen to my special and then listen to an episode of my podcast, if you just cannot get enough of my voice, by all means, listen to it.
Binge watch Cortney.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love nothing more than that. By the time this comes out, you can catch me again at the Blue Room. I'll be opening for Charlene Kay, someone I open for pretty frequently. She's a fantastic comedian, musical comedian. So I'm opening for her. You can catch me in April in Nashville as part of the Nashville Comedy Festival at Zany's. Cool. I'm performing on, I can't say the name of the show because it is like a curse word, but you just look it up. Look it up.
They'll find it. Yeah.
The show is basically called Ask an F Boy, and I'm gonna be doing a little set presentation on that show at the lab at Zany's on the 17th. You can catch me at Zany's again on April 2nd. I'll be working with Jamie French, who's another friend of mine. Also, as a side note, I've had a few Instagram reels that have blown up the past couple of days. So if you want to check those out and help that out, basically, if you like David Lynch and Twin Peaks and Mulholland Drive, has nothing to do with my stand-up, but for some reason, they've really been popping off, and I will take it, because that's
there we go.
So, as a comedian, it sucks that in order to get booked, you have to have a following.
Absolutely.
And it's like I could not care any less about social media, because it's like I am in it. I love the live show. That's what I think a lot of people. That's what gives me joy and brings me fulfillment, and trying to commodify my clips and everything to be like, oh, did I say, was this funny, and was this precise enough to put on the internet as a clip, and did I stumble over my words too much? I don't want to think about that,
right.
Anyway, all to say is anyway, so follow me on Instagram. Do I have anything else? I don't think so.
So that was a very inclusive list. That had a lot of the things. And to echo part of what Cortney said, followers, likes, shares, comments, all of that makes such a difference for comedians, because a lot of us have our same sentiment. We really just care about the live performance. No one got into comedy because they wanted to be a social media influencer.
Yeah.
Well, maybe nowadays people get into comedy for that, but us old war dogs of comedy like me and Cortney, we're so old. That's not for us. But when you go check out her special, when you see it, maybe you watch it on YouTube, maybe you go listen to her podcast, maybe you're listening to this podcast. You're listening to this podcast.
They are definitely listening to this podcast, Drew.
And any kind of shares, comments to any of that stuff for any of your entertainer friends, it makes more difference than not only in the numerics and it getting pushed out more, but we're all humans. There's people on the other sides of these screens. It's nice when we get nice comments. It's nice to see a like. It's nice to see someone share. It just helps us boost our confidence a little bit. So I am more intentional about that now with other people, now that I'm an entertainer. So I always like to remind other people hey, I know the like and subscribe is a cheesy whatever, but it helps, it does. And in addition to Cortney's stuff, I say this at the end of every episode, but thank you all for listening to this episode of Clean Comedy Chats. If you're interested in anything else about the Clean Comedy Collective, we have a website, which is just cleancomedycollective.com. On that website, you can go to the Tennessee section and you get connected to all of Cortney's stuff, because she's one of our collective people in our network. But we also have tons of other Tennessee comedians. We also have 200 comedians from all over the country, so you can check them out. There's a section where you can see what shows are coming up, and again, all over the country. They're not just in Tennessee or Middle Tennessee, but we do have a bunch in Middle Tennessee that you could come check out if you're a Nashville listener and you want to check that out. You can obviously listen to other episodes of the podcast. There's a new feature that we started last week, which is a Patreon account. You can sign up and be a member. It's just $5 a month, which is less than a coffee. And by doing that, you will get early access to the uncut version of our episodes. And that means you'll get to hear longer interviews with a lot of the comedians. I know for a fact this entire interview is not going to be in the hour-long episode that's going to cut, but we've covered some great content. And so if you want to listen to deeper stuff with the comedians that we have, join the Patreon. And if you're I don't want to join the Patreon, but I want to listen just to more of Cortney, you can pay a little and just get this episode uncut. And so that's an option. And I feel like I always forget something that I'm supposed to encourage people to do, but just go to the website and all your dreams will come true.
Yeah.
So
That's the best way to put it.
yeah, if you want to live a happy, successful life, check out the Clean Comedy Collective website. I remember the thing I always forget. If you're a comedian and you're like, I want to be part of the Clean Comedy Collective, there's an application process, and that's something you can check out on the website as well. I always forget to tell that to people, but Corey, again, congratulations on your special that dropped yesterday.
Thank you.
By the time this episode is heard, I will have already listened to it. And I'll probably be like, that was a really good special. I'm saying it preemptively, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to say that. So, it was great having you on, and thank you for just being awesome and a good Nashville comedy friend. So,
thank you. Are you kidding me? Thank you for being awesome and being a great friend and comedian, and so thankful for your friendship and for all that you do for our scene and for your friends. And you're fantastic.
Yeah, well, we're both just killing it out here, I guess.
We're so cool.
So we're just the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird way to end an episode. Well, guys, this is a great chat. And we'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
You're welcome.